Bonnie, thanks for meeting with us today and giving us some inside tips about how to navigate that DECA experience, especially from the insider secrets of what a judge sees and what a judge likes and doesn't like. But let's start off really easy. How have you first come to know and get involved with DECA? What has the experience been like, and how long have you been judging?
This will be my ninth season as a judge. This should be, yeah, I already signed up. So this will be my fifth season at ICDC. Usually I'm only one of the virtual judges for ICDC, so you won't actually see me anywhere. But like I said, this will be my ninth year. I judge Washington, California, and probably Oregon this year.
Do you typically judge the same sort of event, or do they kind of flip you all around to events depending on what the need is?
I have probably judged everything at least once.
So I always say to judges that they don't need to necessarily be experts in a thing to be a good judge.
No.
Certainly the background helps, especially if you're doing like a finance thing and you need to know a little bit more. Um, but I always say to judges or to adults, you don't need to be an expert to be good at this. And what you need to do is be able to look at a kid and judge them the same.
For me, I work in endurance sports right now. And so of course SEOR, that's my home category. You don't have to be a knowledge in the industry is good. And this is something I say to the kids all the time. Know what's going on in the industry you're trying to compete in.
You judge a lot of SEOR. You've done a whole bunch of everything. And maybe we'll split this next question into two different entities. So,
Yeah.
what's something that you see that makes a really good role play stand out to you as a judge?
One of the first things with role plays is confidence. You need to walk in there ready to knock it out of the ballpark. Because if you're confident and excited, we're going to be confident and excited to hear you. And you can get through a lot of stumbling blocks with that, with your confidence. Um, Another thing to me, and a lot of students underestimate this, and I scream it at the top of my lungs, performance indicators, especially first time judges are told to look for those specifically.
So let's look at it. What's something that you see that stands out for a good written event presentation?
I had a Washington event. I was doing SER presentations. And I had two students come up to me and literally they had me so captivated. I put down my pen and I'm like, that's it. This is the presentation. What a lot of it for them was it was eye contact, it was effortless, their visuals made sense. There weren't too many visuals. I didn't get easily distracted. They made it more like a conversation and less like a presentation, but that's personal judge's preference. Some like the more formal. I like the fact it was a sit down conversation. You could tell they were excited. They loved the business they were working with. They loved the people in that business and they truly wanted to see them succeed.
I share your passion about, geez, the number of visuals sometimes is just distracting. And I say to students, if the things that you show me ought to be purposeful, because if
Mm-hmm.
not, then it's just a distraction. And if I have a hard time following what you're showing me, then I'm just not listening to what you're saying. And you definitely want me listening to what you're saying.
Absolutely. What's the value? So, what is the value of that visual? What does it add to your story? And I say this to my marketing clients all the time. What's the why? Why is it there? If you can't answer that, why are you putting it in there?
What were some of the most memorable things you've seen, whether they're role plays or presentations? What's something that sticks in your head? Wow, even years later, like, wow, that presentation was really good.
In role plays, one of the most creative things I ever saw is there was one student who did visuals for her role play, but what she did is she did little table tents. So instead of having notes in front of her, she literally had a stack of table tents in front of her, visuals on my side, notes for herself on the other. And it worked. It worked beautifully. I mean, it was just drawn out. It was just quick pen and paper sketches. I could see the visuals. She could see her notes. That to me is kind of one of the most ingenious things I've ever seen in terms of role plays.
Those table tents are really neat. My
Mm-hmm.
wife helped judge at districts this past year, and that blew her away.
Yeah, don't rely on your notes. Or let me put it this way: don't overly rely on your notes. It's a good thing to have kind of an outline in front of you so you know you're hitting your points. But a judge doesn't want to see you with a piece of paper in front of your face or your head down. A lot of times, students will forget that it's supposed to be a conversation.
I started telling kids too. Earlier, you said that confidence, how they walk up and how they approach you as a judge. I always say to the kids, the judge sees you from the second you get into their line of sight and how
Mm-hmm.
you walk away. So yes, you want to be impressive when you sit down with all of your information, but you don't want to walk up with slumped shoulders and kind of mopey. I know it's like those intangible pieces, but that gives you as a judge a different feeling when the kid is bringing that sort of enthusiasm just to come and sit down.
Assume that we have our eyes on you from the second you walk into the room to the second you walk out.
So I'm a classroom teacher still. We
Hmm?
remember the really good things, and we also remember the really terrible things. So I don't know if there's any role plays or presentations that stand out to you just because they flopped in a bad way.
I had a student come to me. Well, it was a group of students. They were fidgety, kept pulling at sleeves, looking down, looking around elsewhere. If you make it where it's not pleasant for me to listen to, you're not going to get the scores you expect. And the other big thing, and I hate hammering this point home, is I've had especially role plays that they fail to meet any of the PIs. They have great ideas, but the solutions they come up with don't really fit the scenario or don't fit the PIs.
There's one that you feel weak on. You still have to address it. You still have to say it. You still have to incorporate it in some way. Because if you fail to, then it's just a big fat zero.
Oh, yeah.
If you never address it.
Some students think we want to give the lower scores. We don't. We want to see you succeed.
Are there things that you feel that the kids have been coached to do that just drive you mad? Like for one, when I see it, and it's sort of faded out now, a lot of kids used to make like a fake business card to hand to the judge. And I understand at one point that that was a newer creative thing to do. A lot of kids just don't understand what purpose that has. They just want to leave something. But
Mm-hmm.
it's clearly something kids have been coached. Make sure you make a
Yep.
business card. So are there things that you see from a lot of kids that you just wonder, like, is that being coached? And maybe we should just stop coaching the kids to do that.
What people don't realize is like when you hand it to us, it ends up in the recycling by the end of the night. We've been lucky, at least with the West Coast kids. It's kind of faded out with COVID. Again, it goes back to the whole idea of visuals. What value does this add to your presentation?
The other thing that I'm curious about, and I still think it's okay to do, but it takes a savvy kid to understand the difference. If I was coming to you and you're my boss, or if I'm coming to you and you're higher up in the food chain, I want your business, I'm probably not going to sit down until I'm invited to sit down. Is
Ask
that
first, period. I used to work for a Fortune 500 bank. Anytime I'm in a room with any of the executives, may I sit down? But make that extra effort. May I sit down? So yeah, we don't mind you sitting down, but add that extra layer of saying, may I sit down?
I am out of questions, but I don't know if there are things that you'd like to share that kids typically ask you, or if there's anything that we might have left on the table that we ought to share before we wrap up.
The things students ask me a lot about in terms of role plays is conclusions. You cannot undervalue your conclusion, period, because that is the last impression you leave on the judge. It's funny, my mom is, I would say, just shy of being an OG DECA. One of the things she always says is ask for the close. So you want to sit there when you're done, you want to summarize, okay, this is my solution. These are the pros of my solution. This is what you're going to get out of it. And then ask for the sale. Ask for the ask for the next meeting, ask for the buy off on your plan. Let the judge know why you're excited and why you think this is going to work. Student after student undervalues that close. And I cannot say this enough. Take that 15 to 30 seconds and hammer your point home and leave the judge with an exclamation point.
Well, that's a great place to stop.
Mm-hmm.
These have all been great pieces of advice. Bonnie, thank you very much for your time today.